Hello, hello, and welcome. I hope out there where you're watching us live today, you can hear and see us. I'm here today with Nico Kreiling and Kristian Rother, and we're going to be talking about the datalift summit that is happening in Berlin from the 22nd to the 24th of June this summer. And we're here to give you a preview, a glimpse of what's going to happen in June, and to introduce some of the speakers to you. And that's exactly what my plan is for today, to first introduce Kristian to you a bit, and then Nico, and then get them to speak about what they're going to be doing for you in June and what the background to this is. So, Kristian, you've been in the field for a long time, also as I learned while we were getting ready for this. How did you get into data and data science in the first place?
Well, it was a bit the other way around. I was doing bioinformatical science as a researcher for quite a while, and there we applied quite a bit of numerical methods to predict stuff. In that case, we predicted 3D structures of molecules. So that was the type of work that has been obsoleted like 1 or 2 years ago by the Google AlphaFold thing. And much later, I learned that now this thing is called data science. And that was when. And then my first closer contact with what most of you probably call data science was when I was translating actual data science books for O'Reilly from English into German. And that is where I learned the language that most of us are familiar with today.
That's Python.
Yeah, that's Python, of course, and the terminology that is used because we used at the university. We talked about the same stuff, but in a slightly different way.
Understood. There was a time when data analytics was just log file analysis, for example, like 15 years ago. Okay, understood. So you've been in the field for quite a while. We have 2022 now. So if you're looking at data science today, where are you in the field?
Like I would say if I were to pitch myself, I specialize in education. So I've been spending most of a bigger part of the past decade and the beginning of this decade training people in Python and data analysis, in scientific methods, in statistics. And during the past 3.5 years, bringing all of these together, running or building up a data science branch for a bootcamp that is here in Berlin or all over Germany, basically.
Okay, thank you very much, Kristian. Nico, over to you. So how did you get into this field around data and data science?
I guess I was always a self-teaching person. I started kind of doing web development when I was a student at school, and I always loved to solve puzzles and so. And I never saw myself so much as an IT guy. So I started, doing engineering tasks and so. But nevertheless, those technology topics that came up always fascinated me, and so I got always saw what's happening out there. And I was always just too curious to stay out of it. And 5, 6, 7 years ago, everything was just happening so quickly. And so it was really interesting to basically shift from classical software engineering to data science. Also, there weren't any experts at that time, or not so many at least. Kristian was a rare one. And so that's basically how I moved in there.
Okay, and also to you the question, so it's 2022 now, where are you in the field?
Yeah, today I'm a data scientist at Scieniers, a small tech consultancy company that does client projects in all kinds of fields. And quite recently, I, for example, developed recommender systems for big media company. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then, Kristian, back to you. So what you're going to be doing as a 3-hour workshop on the 24th of June in Berlin is called How to Teach Data Science. You just also mentioned that where you are today, actually, you helped build one of the larger boot camps. That includes actually helping, dozens, hundreds of practitioners start their career, but it also actually means teaching people how to teach data science. So what is this about for you?
Yeah, so that was quite an interesting progression at the Spiced Academy. Yeah, I might put the name forward here of the place because I started as a single person running the boot camp, and as the team was growing, quite a part of my responsibility moved towards training the team for one of the parts that I enjoyed most was running internal train the trainer workshops. Yeah, like there's something that I found out in conversations with many technical persons is that sometimes you meet the opinion that that teaching is something that people just do as in contrast to the technical stuff. But if you look a bit closer, then there's quite a lot of science behind behind education as well. Like if you want to do a proper lesson, I'm not talking about conference talk. This is something that I believe anyone can do. But if you are dealing with people who are under a lot of pressure or are trying to keep a group together over a longer time, or you want to run a session on a subject that you know nothing about, this is where the in-depth methodical knowledge from the educational field is. I believe it's where it's really useful. Yeah, and I wanted to pass on that knowledge.
You wanted about okay, so training the trainer then actually is about showing people how to teach. There's also something, of course, that I know, i.e. that in your role, you've been hiring really seasoned practitioners, so people that have years of industry experience and then chose to kind of teach the next generation. So how much practical experience does one need to have to be a good teacher on top of learning the methods of how to teach well?
You know what? I found out that what I was super happy to see was that some of our best lessons, they have been delivered by people who were bootcamp graduates themselves. Yeah, because they do have a decisive advantage because they know exactly how the student feels when they are just struggling to learn, I don't know, the details of linear regression or debugging in Python. For an experienced practitioner, this is something that they just do. Yeah, but a junior can explain these well because they know all the difficult parts. What a new teacher tends to struggle with is that they very often spend a lot of time preparing. So you might end up a senior person might spend, I don't know, half an hour preparing for something where a new teacher or a first-time teacher takes 3 days. Yeah, so there is a very, very strong asymmetry, and this is where I think where that methodical knowledge helps to decrease the size of the time you need to prepare.
Okay, so I mean, you're actually emphasizing the methodical knowledge that you need. Then there's a second part that experience helps, particularly also actually if it includes having the same experience that your students are now going through or early stage practitioners are going through. Is there anything else that is really important to teaching data science in your mind?
Like in general, you have to like it. I think my worst sessions, they have been, if there's any SPICE teachers or graduates in the audience, they know what's coming next. My worst sessions have been in the area of time series forecasting because I don't like the topic. Yeah, that's it's that simple. If you're not interested in a subject that makes you a crap teacher, no matter how much expertise you are bringing in.
Okay.
I think this is an essential component of any good teaching.
Okay, thank you very much, Kristian. Actually, over to you, Nico. I mean, you're a practitioner. You also learn some stuff. Perhaps you were also teaching colleagues or helping other people. Can you relate to what Kristian is saying? And if so, how would you relate?
I can definitely say that it always requires passion. So yeah, if you burn for a subject, then you do your best work properly. It doesn't matter whether it's teaching or actually coding. If you're fascinated by something, you just have a higher focus and stay on track more easily. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so particularly the third part about it. Okay, so the title of your workshop in June is going to be Visual Data Exploration with Python. Actually, while looking at this again now, I was thinking, okay, so visual data exploration with Python, perhaps it's a way in which the non-data scientists or the non-Pythonistas or something like this become acquainted with data and data science in the first place. So I was wondering, can you say something around your experience of exploring data and also speaking and showing it and so on? What happens there?
Yeah, probably you're right that it's a good way to get an introduction to the field. So there's a saying like a picture is worth 1,000 words, because we are much faster in processing like visual data or visual relationships if they're presented in a graph or similar than if we just read numbers. Then it takes a lot of focus and so. And if you have like a data set which is kind of like not like a hello world example, then quite often you have a lot of columns, you have a lot of different edge cases. You kind of need to discover outliers, missing values. Often you have so much potential what other data might be joinable in different ways. So there's quite a lot of potential to discover. And if you can be quicker that way, you just get more things done because time is always limited. And that's, for example, one reason why data visualization is important and especially helpful in the exploration phase. Even it's probably required to say that data visualization can have a lot of different targets. You can make a simple chart which is aimed to presenting your knowledge and giving a message, for example. That's what you find in presentations, hopefully, or in articles. But if you do the visualization to basically find insights, it's kind of a different way on how you create your graphs, because you don't have already a message you want to bring over, but you want to find different messages, and that basically changed the workflow quite a bit.
Okay, your workshop is going to be on this data exploration. Do you know, are you going to do both parts in the workshop? Do you know that already?
I'm planning to. So the idea is a little bit to first quickly give an overview of the different Python libraries out there for visualization, because other than in R, where basically almost everyone is using ggplot, you know. In Python, there's quite a variety. Like the persons who come from academia and have a long history mostly still stayed with matplotlib, but there's really a diverse field. Like Plotly Express will definitely be part of it, because a lot of people are using it. And it's great for certain scenarios where you quickly want to create a certain graph, but it might be not as flexible as others. For example, to name Bouquet as a nice open source tool out there, or my special favorite Altair, which is using the grammar of graphics paradigm and is built on a completely other technology stack than, for example, matplotlib. And of course, you will not be able to get a full understanding of all those libraries in 3 hours, but it's important to see that there are different ones and get a little bit of feeling how they behave for what kind of scenarios you want to use them, because then you can benefit from the different strength of those ones. And hopefully in the end of the workshop, we will also integrate different plots from different plotting libraries into one dashboard, because that's another thing which is special about exploration. Then you want to have something normally interactive to more quickly go through certain scenarios. So hopefully in the end, we will build a panel dashboard to integrate different figures and different ways of plotting from different libraries.
Okay, thank you, Nico. So that actually, as far as I got it, participants can expect quite a lot of technical depth. So with the breadth, so just simply that you are aware of the different options and the libraries, and then you can deep dive with them. And there's actually also a practical outcome after the 3 hours. And now I want, as a follow-up question, actually to go back to something you said and check whether I understood it, because I thought it was really interesting. So there was something that you said around data exploration when you have a message, and I was thinking this is almost like stakeholder communication. So this kind of like non-data people, perhaps, something like this. And then there was this, I don't know yet, I'm actually exploring it, and it's probably part of the process of going from having data to building a model that perhaps is deployed somewhere. And I was wondering, can you say a bit more about the difference? And then for our audience today, I'm actually thinking they're probably really interested in how does data exploration help the modeling?
Okay, maybe first to your first question regarding how does that change? So actually in the beginning, often people tend to create charts which are kind of like messy or have like too much information. That's kind of quite often a little bit explorative, but often then they use it for stakeholder communication, as you said, they just put it somewhere. Then over the time they learn like, okay, it's better to really focus on certain numbers, only show what you actually want to bring over as a message, what you're talking about, if it's a presentation or so, and kind of hide the stuff which is actually not relevant because it takes away the focus of the listeners. And then if you go to like, okay, now I want to create something explorative where the only audience is normally, at least for the beginning, me or maybe a colleague I want to show it, then I can again go much deeper. I can put in more information, but still the rule applies to basically keep only the information in such a chart you want to have there, and rather create more charts, especially as they are then better maintainable. Because that's another thing, while you're doing exploration, you will rewrite your code all the time. So it's important to have a syntax where you quickly get into it again. And regarding your second question, I think it was how data exploration leads to better models.
Yes, the usefulness of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, the problem always is a little bit, you don't know actually what is in your data there. But as data science these days gets, at least it depends on what kind of AI we're talking about. But if you're talking about just tabular data sets where you have classical things like regression or classification tasks, and so the model normally is quickly iterated over a couple of scenarios using some AutoML tools, for example, or other things. But of course, you can always tune and find better hyperparameters and so, but normally you're living in some niche here. But looking about the data and finding maybe another column which might be joinable or something which the model cannot really take over, because if you understand your data, you maybe better understand why a certain model also works in that scenario and why it doesn't. And that can quite much be a game changer if you compare it to tuning the hyperparameters, for example.
Thank you for that, Nico. Kristian, if I remember correctly, then visualization, storytelling, and communication is something you like when teaching?
It's quite essential, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. How do you relate to what Nico's been telling us?
I get this idea. I like this idea of having one message per graph. Yeah, that very much resonates with me. Like one thing that comes to my mind is that people learn more easily when you can visualize the structure of the subject somehow. So you need to, one of the tasks of a teacher today in the second decade, in the third decade of the 21st century, is not to pour in all the knowledge. Yeah, because Wikipedia and YouTube and Coursera and so on, they are quite good at transmitting information. They are less good in visualizing or communicating structure. Yeah, so like a simple example, if you are preparing a lesson on a subject of your choice, let's say data visualization, you could say, let's do a little bit of everything. This is a great way if you have a knowledgeable audience, that let's say you have people that have done a little bit of data visualization before, and then they want to have a complete sweep to compare different technologies. I like that approach, Nico, a lot. But it's a very difficult thing to start with when someone has done nothing in that area yet. On the other hand, you could do a deep dive, go very deep into a single thing. Like, let's say you make a lesson that says everything about the scatter plot in Bokeh, for instance. Great, you can cover very difficult parts with it, but for most people, it's not that useful. So normally, you want to make a compromise between the two, and that is somehow charting the topic by highlighting some things that you believe help the learners to orient themselves, like something about plotting libraries, something about storytelling, something about more technical aspects, maintainability maybe, because these are components that you need to solve real world problems. And that will necessarily leave some gaps, but the human brain is remarkably good at connecting dots.
Okay, thank you for that, Kristian. So you've also been now speaking about teaching and learning it. Nico, you're going to give a workshop on this. And Kristian also introduced the topic of, we can learn it in person, and then there's a lot of online courses that exist out there. So, Nico, you're offering it in person. How do you see this landscape of learning tools and platforms at the moment? If somebody wanted to upgrade their data exploration and data visualization skills?
That's actually a tough question, because I'm not very well aware which courses, Coursera or whatever courses out there exist, especially on the focus of data visualization. I just, regarding the workshop and some other talks I was giving, was reading a couple of books out there. And there was just mentioned storytelling with data is a wonderful resource or a wonderful art. And I just can say that it actually makes a lot of fun to visualize data and play with that, at least for me. And as Kristian was saying, we are always the best when we have fun in things and we burn for stuff. So I think that also quite highlights the motivation maybe, and that's why I would say yes, it's good to get information in the beginning from some course also, but then definitely get your hands wet, especially if it's coming to data visualization, and maybe read some theoretical book on the side to get like new inspirations and things you should maybe focus on and so. But on the other hand, especially for the practical technical part, just do it out there. The documentation of the plotting libraries are actually quite well, and you understand the most if you try to do it, and scenarios for data visualization are out there everywhere.
Thank you, Nico. Then the same question, so to speak, as a last question over back to you, Kristian, so to speak, if you're, looking at the landscape at the moment, and actually data, it's not just data science, right? It's also data literacy. So there's a whole wider field, and it connects also to what Nico's work is doing. If we're thinking about stakeholders, then it is actually about bringing data literacy also to more people, perhaps also showing them how it's done, maybe sometimes a look under the hood or something like this. So how would you do this? What are the best opportunities that you see?
To learn data science or to learn teaching?
To learn data science, actually, to learn and perhaps to learn also data literacy, and to be able to do something with data in the sense of exploring it, visualizing, and finding a message.
Yeah. So it's really, I think what is quite important is not doing stuff entirely on your own, is to find a community, and it does not matter whether you're using R or Python or something else in the beginning. I've recommended to people in the past, if they have an R user next to them that they can ask stuff, then start making your way into the data field with R. If you have Pythonists working next to you, then start learning Python. I've seen reasonable data stuff being implemented in Java. Yeah, that is a language that works quite nicely as well. Yeah, so find someone to exchange thoughts with would be my first recommendation here.
Okay, so that what goes together is, so to speak, Nico has a, just do it attitude to some extent, and actually points out that a lot of resources out there come with wonderful documentation. And then Kristian says, you don't have to do it alone. So actually get people around you that will help you with this. Okay, thank you very much. So what we've been talking about today is workshops that will happen at the datalift Summit in Berlin from the 22nd to the 24th of June. Actually, Kristian and Nico will be on the 24th of June, and there are also tickets available just for that day for the workshops. There will be around 10 workshops in the morning and 10 workshops in the afternoon that you could choose from, each 3 hours. So if you were to come, you get 6 hours of workshops on the Friday. I really look forward to that. I look forward to seeing you in Berlin in June. And with that, I would close our session for today and switch, so to speak, to the outro and say goodbye to everybody who's listening to us live. And also, if you're watching this now or watching this later, the outro will tell you where to get your tickets. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Love to see you in Berlin.